What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Among the Fence, my YouTube channel where I do music reviews. My name is Aaron, and today we're going to be checking out the new album Heavener by the band Animate. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this band, they're a prog metalcore band from Texas. They started around 2011, and this is their fourth studio album. And I tried so very hard to like this band. Their prog metalcore sound is very similar to one of my favorite bands' era, but for some reason I don't know. We couldn't connect. When they released their 2020 album, Graveyou, it got a ton of praise, but again, I just wasn't really feeling it. But this is a story about perseverance and never giving up, because when they released their EP, The Sun Sleeps As If It Never Was, I was instantly hooked. That is a phenomenal EP, and I fell in love with it. And ever since then, I couldn't wait for them to come out with a new album, and I'm very excited to talk about this bad boy. So let's jump into it. The album opens up with the song Absent Persistent, which has atmospheric build-up into a powerful piece of music with fantastic sounding drums. The first half of the verse, I believe, is mostly just synth, and the second half has a dynamic riff and it sounds fantastic. Then the chorus is just a wall of sound, with, again, the only thing that really stood out to me all that much in the chorus were the drums. The vocals are clean and they get a little gritty towards the end, meaning that once you get to verse 2, it's just full-on distorted vocals, super aggressive. The breakdown hits really hard with a lot of dissonance to it, and it comes back around again after the last chorus for the outro, and it's just a fantastically written song. Then we have the song Shade Astray, which comes in with powerful drums, in-your-face vocals, and a lead guitar that kind of shines through here and there. There's a mellow bridge that separates the intro from verse 1 that has a really cool melody, getting you ready for the chorus. The chorus has clean vocals that are they're pushed. They're not like, they're clean, but they're also pushed to break up. So there's a little bit of distortion, a little bit of grit on them. It sounds absolutely amazing. And the bridge is suspenseful leading up to the breakdown with very powerful, dominating vocals. And verse 3 is atmospheric and very passionate. And I love the progression of this song, more in the motion than even just the music. I'm going to jump ahead to two of my favorite songs on this album. The first one being Immolation of Night, which has a twinkling guitar joined by distorted vocals in the intro. The music quickly ramps up with a riff that's carrying the same kind of vibe in the intro. It has that same sound, but it's no longer twinkling. It's just very dynamic and very technical in a sense. And the song keeps evolving and gets even, dare I say, genty in tone. The breakdown is sick and it's amplified even more by the lyrics that are very aggressive and inspiring. The whole song and the message of it is just absolutely incredible. The last minute of this song is the best music you could possibly put into your ears. And another one of my favorites is Void Surfacing, which starts out with a sick riff and pounding drums. You can really hear the music, like the riff and the drum sound so good. Even when the vocals come in, they're still just so vibrant within the mix. And it gets super groovy with a good rhythm. And I love the distorted guitar with the kind of, dare I say, like chanty vocals, but they're more like just backing vocals more than anything else. The whole song is captivating sonically, and you'll get lost in it very easy, especially in the outro. Another song that stuck out to me being kind of unique is Labyrinthine. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It starts out with quick drums and a scattered sounding riff, and the vocals in the verse work really well with the rhythm, and I love the low, clean vocal tone in the chorus that creates kind of a calmness to the song. And the breakdown after is some huge sounding guitars, and it transitions really well back into the chorus. The outro is really dark, but at the same time it's light due to this kind of colorful guitar melody that's echoing in the background. Everything else is very heavy, it's very dark sounding, and this little guitar melody is like this little glimmer of sunshine. And then we have the song Without a Whisper. It has two guitars in the intro that's just very ethereal and heavy sounding at the same time, while the verse is mostly just ethereal as the more aggressive guitar cuts out. The chorus brings the trilling guitar in, but it keeps the clean vocals and it builds up over time. One of the more, I guess you could say, chill songs on this entire album until you get to the bridge and the breakdown that really bring the heat. But leading up to it, it's more of an atmospheric, kind of an emotional kind of song. And it fits because this whole album is about going back and kind of dealing with trauma that he went through. And this one is specifically about his grandmother dying and really learning how to deal with that, especially at the time, which I guess he wasn't really able to. life, and now he's old enough to where he can kind of go back and face that trauma. False Meridian has this guitar kind of thing. Maybe it's a synth, but it sounds a lot like a computer kind of calculating something maybe. And it's followed by a low, very low droning guitar riff. The distorted vocals are intense, and the chorus is like the calm before the storm with clean vocals that just have a little bit of a bite to them. This is an aggressive roller coaster. It's all over the place and it's up and down. The breakdown has intermittent chugs in it with echoey vocals, which is a really nice contrast. I love that they do that throughout this album here and there. Then we have the song Rivery. It's a very emotional, mostly synth song. The lyrics are very vulnerable, and the bridge has this really sick bass line. You don't really hear the bass too much throughout this entire album, but it really comes through. There's like a vocal shift, or like a vocal, it's kind of like a vocal shift in tone. Sounds really good. This is a more calm, kind of a good midpoint breakup for this album. Purity Weeps starts out with quiet vocals that explodes in the verse with a riff that's peppered with a Weedly Doo melody. The chorus sounds really good, and honestly, this is kind of a hidden gem on this album because it has such a strong, very strong post-hardcore sound to it, specifically in the chorus. This is like what I wish Dayseeker would currently sound like, because this is where the direction I felt like they were going. And this song is so freaking good. The bridge has a really good build up into a pretty mild breakdown, honestly, which I feel like fits the song. A lot of people, I'm sure, wish it was a little bit heavier, but I mean, it just works. And they got this post-hardcore vibe, like I said, just down in this song. And I started to notice it more and more throughout the rest of the album after listening to this, because then I started paying attention, and it pops up every once in a while, but in Purity Weeps, it is just there. And then we have the song Ember Glow. I'm glad that they did not name this song Afterglow. The drums really carry the verse. The vocals and the guitar sound good, but honestly, they don't really compare to the drums. The drum work in this is fantastic. Then they only get better as it goes into the chorus. This is another song that you'll get completely captivated and lost in, especially when the melody hits in the bridge. And that brings us to the closing track, Elysium, which is one of the more proggy and emotional songs on this album, I'd say. It's about understanding and feeling the grief of Mike's grandfather, the vocalist, who passed away when he was 15, and now it's 12 years later. Now he's finally able to kind of comprehend what that means to him in his life. The guitar melody is extremely technical, the rhythm is very groovy, and the song is just all about letting go and allowing yourself to feel this, which is actually kind of tough if you think about it, because he's gone 12 years without having, without having to deal with it, without having to face it head on, and he's finally doing that, which is probably the best thing you could do, because even if you don't face that trauma, it's still in there. And you can really feel the emotion hit really hard in this song. And I feel like this is a perfect closing track to this album, which is pretty much based all around facing his trauma from the past. And this seems to be probably like the biggest hang up he has to deal with. I absolutely love this album. I feel like this is the perfect direction that the band could be going in for their sound. But I gotta admit, they're not quite as progressive as I remember. Their music is still super technical. It's just they follow a more standard song structure based around metalcore, of having like an intense intro, very drum forward and vocal forward and verses, really huge chorus, kind of rinse and repeat the next verse, maybe have it be just a little bit heavier, and then a breakdown, or a bridge and breakdown, and then the song's over. But it sounds so different from just generic metalcore because they do make different changes. There's not always a really intense, crazy dynamic riff in your face. There's not always heavy vocals. Sometimes the clean vocals are behind the mix and they're a little echoey, and they're not out in front and soaring. They just make it work. The music is super inspiring. It'll captivate you honestly on its own without the vocals, but throw in the distorted vocals, the clean vocals, that are just very colorful and honestly graceful, especially when they're singing about these different themes. It's all over. This is a game-changing album specifically for this band. And if you haven't looked up the lyrics yet for this song, I know a lot of people have been jamming this thing. Definitely check out the lyrics while you're listening to it, because it'll make it hit so much harder hearing the things that Mike is singing about, especially in some of the songs that are more about his personal acceptance of himself. It's just heartfelt poetry. So with all that said, I gotta give Heavener by Animate a 8.9 out of 10. But I want to know what you guys think. Like I said, I know a lot of you have been jamming this album since it came out. So yeah, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of Heavener. Let me know what you would rate it and what your favorite song is. And if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to give it a like. If you want to help support me and my channel, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon. That way you also don't miss out on any of my future reviews, especially if you leave a request for me to review something. That way you don't miss out on that, because sometimes that happens and it just makes me sad. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day or night whenever you happen to be watching this, and I will talk to you guys next time.
I was